Carson City is on the verge of a major change, and we are excited as a chamber to be able to do what we can do to assist in the transition of this exciting new venture. What had long been but a written document penned in good times and then shelved to gather dust through the recession has been dusted off, revised a bit, and is now on the verge of reality. Join me in giving a hand to Mayor Robert Crowell as he brings us up to date on all that is to be forthcoming. And there will be a Q&A with the mayor and the supervisor following his marks. So Mayor Crowell has already told me that you better pour your glasses full, and he's going to be talking for a little while.
Something other than water.
Yeah. Thank you. Mayor Crowell, please.
My fellow Carsonites, thank you once again for affording me the privilege and indeed the high honor of presenting some remarks on the state of our city. And of course, many thanks to the Carson City Chamber of Commerce, and I want to thank Wells Fargo Bank for sponsoring this today. And I know Gene Perpich is in the audience here today, and I hope it's okay, Gene, if I say, you know, if you find Gene on LinkedIn, there's a way where you can vote for Wells Fargo. I think it's local, and if we get enough votes, there's a little bit of a pot of money that can go to some of our nonprofits here. So if you're on LinkedIn, try and find Gene, okay, or Wells Fargo, or just find it on the internet somewhere. But it's a good deal. The more you vote, the better it is. Yeah, we've done well in this community by getting, doing the online voting stuff, and it's pretty good. And let me say on the chamber, I'm constantly impressed, about the chamber's what I call ubiquitous and positive presence at nearly every event in our community. Every event, man, you're everywhere. Let me say, when we ended last year and started this year with some really rather historic events. First, for the first time since 1944, Carson City once again became the namesake of United States Navy ship with the christening of the USNS Carson City EPF-7 in Mobile, Alabama. In naming EPF-7, the Secretary of Navy stated, and I quote, "Carson City displays American values of community, ingenuity, and perseverance at their best." I couldn't say it any better. The Carson City was launched this past week and will be undergoing sea trials under the command of our very own Captain Bob Wiley before being formally commissioned later this year. And I also want to say that front and center in the christening ceremony was our own local council of the United States Navy League, an organization dedicated to our nation's sea services. So in Navy parlance, I know there are some Navy folks out there, bravo Zulu to all those who helped make the christening a truly special event. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say that includes Susan Crowell as the sponsor of the ship and Carolyn Southard as the matron of honor. Yeah. And along with the new came changes to the old. Just this month, Carson City saw the raising of the old City Bank building on the corner of Curry and Telegraph Streets to make way for a three-story, mixed-use, historically themed building being built by the Hop May Adams Foundation. When completed, this building will feature 10 apartments with individual garages, together with office and retail spaces. I'll talk more about our downtown redevelopment in a moment, but let me say that these types of developments or projects help make Carson City a great place to live, work, and play. In another historic first, through the efforts of the Nevada State Prison Preservation Society, this past year saw the first commercial use of the historic Nevada State Prison when the Chamber held its annual meeting in the old prison yard. Really rather spectacular. With that event, a prison museum as envisioned by the Society and many members of our community became closer to a reality. We should not overlook the tremendous potential of this historic asset in our community. In 2015, we also broke ground on a new no-kill animal shelter that, weather permitting, will be opening this fall. This new shelter replaces our old and dilapidated facility and was financed in part by the 1/8% sales tax measure. I say in large part because we received 2 major donations for the construction and furnishing of this shelter. In a credit to the vision and determination of the members of our community, the Carson Animal Services Initiative, or CASI, raised and contributed some $200,000 towards the shelter's construction, and the Nevada Humane Society contributed the funds for the facility's furniture, fixtures, and equipment. Donations, both of which that closed the gap in our funding and allowed the shelter's construction to proceed. And of course, there are many of our residents in this room and elsewhere who have volunteered their time, their valuable time, by contributing to and working at the shelter, the existing shelter, for many years and a lot of time. Yeah. On December 30th, we opened the new $8.3 million Multi-Athletic Center, or MAC, next to the Boys and Girls Club. When the Quality of Life Initiative was passed in 1996, we promised our citizens that part of the funds raised by that measure would be used to build just such a center. Now, some 20 years later, that vision has become a reality. The MAC provides a superb venue for individuals and league sports, as well as the Boys and Girls Club. With its suspended track, the MAC offers a superb year-round venue for walking and jogging for people of all ages. The construction costs of the MAC were financed by a combination of the 1/8% sales tax bonding capacity, or about $2.2 million, and quality of life funds for about $6.1 million. And I want to say now that it bears repeating that the Quality of Life Initiative is a perpetual 1/4% sales tax levy designed to acquire, promote, maintain, and protect our open space and recreation facilities. The citizens of our community who had the foresight and initiative to pass this measure have every reason to be proud. The Quality of Life Initiative ranks, in my view, right up there with the 1969 municipal consolidation of Carson City as a landmark in the development of our community. And speaking of quality of life, this past year we took formal title to 4,551 acres of BLM property, including Silver Saddle Ranch, bringing our total open space to just around 7,000 acres. 7,000 acres. That's nearly 11 square miles of world-class recreation opportunities. Pretty fantastic, and not many communities can say that. 2015 also saw the completion of the Ash to Kings Canyon 7-mile, I think it's 7, maybe plus or minus, probably a little more, hiking and biking and jogging trail, built by the sweat and blisters of many volunteers, including muscle-powered. This visionary premier trail will someday provide a trail link between Douglas and Carson City, and has put Carson City on the map as having some of the best trails in the nation. And then there is Epic Rides, one of, if not the premier mountain bike organization in the nation, which will be starting the first of a 5-year commitment to bring beginner, amateur, and professional mountain bike riders and their families together for a 3-day citywide event in our city. We have every reason to be proud that Epic Rides selected Carson City because of our open space trails and our commitment to making a pedestrian and bicycle-friendly downtown. In another month or so, we will break ground on yet another historic project for our city, the downtown core streetscape improvements, including 3rd and Curry Streets. A special thanks to the McFadden family for their generous donation of $125,000 for the creation of McFadden Plaza on 3rd Street. The public-private partnership between the McFadden family, the property and business owners on 3rd Street, and the city will provide residents a fantastic dining, shopping, and recreation venue. Our downtown redevelopment, which, by the way, is not going to happen overnight, the benefits of that we will not see overnight, will be followed by improvements to all of our city entryways, including Williams Street, an area that is in the design stage under the Greening of America's Capitals grant program. And I also want to give a pat to Ronni Hannaman and the Chamber of Commerce and those at this table for selling out all 31 downtown street benches at $1,400 a bench and 13 bike racks at $500 each. And I think it only took 2 weeks or so, and it was moving so fast that I had to rewrite this speech 5 times between yesterday and this morning. The numbers kept moving, you bet. I think, what that is a demonstration of our community's commitment to making the downtown of our state capital the envy of all. 2015 also saw the implementation of significant government information and transparency initiatives by our city staff using state-of-the-art technology. On September 1st of last year, Carson City launched Carson City Connect, a free downloadable application for both the iPhone and Android operating systems. Using this application, our residents can not only find in one easy place information regarding a number of government services, but can also communicate directly with city government on a range of matters. The city manager has tasked city employees to respond to issues brought forward under this program within 24 hours, and I think they're meeting that requirement. The initial response to this program looks quite encouraging. From September 1st to last year to the current date, some 258 requests have been received through Carson Connect, and 150 surveys soliciting customer feedback were sent out. 68 of those surveys were returned. Of the 68 of which were returned, 85% of those responding rated employee effectiveness as superior, 89% rated the timeliness of response as superior. And perhaps most importantly, 92% of the respondents ranked employee courtesy as superior. Along with Carson Connect, at the beginning of this year, the city launched a program on its website that displays all, and I mean all, city expenditures in an easy-to-use, real-time, searchable database. In January, the city also implemented the Granicus program that allows for the recording and archiving of city meetings in a searchable format. That's okay, I'm going to talk about you in a minute here. For example, if one wants to know about a certain subject, a keyword search is available to take user directly to that portion of the video where the word or topic was discussed. Ladies and gentlemen, that's really a fantastic research tool for those of you interested in what's going on in the city and what has gone on in the past. It starts when, the full benefit of Granicus starts now as we start the program. But if we'd had it in existence for the last 15 or 20 years, it would be invaluable. The city will, and to add to that, the city will soon have a newly redesigned website that will become more intuitive and easy to navigate in a more intuitive and easy to navigate format. We will also seek to expand the menu of options that residents can perform online from the comfort of their own homes. Not to be outdone, Jump Around Carson, or JACK, launched a new dispatch program as well as a free downloadable application that allows a user to track the status and location of buses and when the next one will reach a designated bus stop. You don't hear much about it, but JACK has seen a 44% increase in ridership since 2010, providing some, and listen to this, 216,000 rides in 2015. Yeah. In the water and wastewater area, with the design and planning phases completed, the much-needed improvements to our aging wastewater treatment plant will begin in the next couple of months. On the water side, the construction of the east-west transmission line continues on schedule. The completion of this line will allow for a fully interconnected water delivery system that will, for the first time, provide enhanced citywide resource delivery capabilities and connect fully with the north-south intertie that we use between our county to the south, and a little bit of it goes to the county to the west, to the east. Importantly, the water and wastewater projects are overseen by a citizens group. On the energy and environmental front, the Board of Supervisors will shortly consider two programs, one to retrofit city facilities to be more energy efficient, and another to add 485 kilowatts of solar power to these facilities. The retrofit planning costs were paid for by a grant from the state of Nevada, and assuming approval, I'm talking to all of you, that's an open meeting law violation, and assuming approval by the board, its $4 million recommended facility upgrades will be paid through an energy savings performance contract such that there will be no additional out-of-pocket costs to the city. It is anticipated that this project will reduce electric energy usage by about 20% and natural gas consumption by a like amount, saving approximately $230,000 a year in utility costs. Yeah, it's okay. It's going to get better here in a minute. In environmental terms, this energy reduction equates to an annual greenhouse reductions in the neighborhood of 3.3 million pounds, the equivalent of removing 342 passenger cars from the road, or an annual carbon reduction equivalent to 1,300 acres of forest. A similar energy savings performance contract concerning solar power will also be considered by the board. Again, if approved, this project will supply about 30% of if approved, the total of the city's energy electrical requirements would be supplied by solar, which would reduce greenhouse gas emissions by about 1,600 tons, or an equivalent of 1,200 acres of forest. Those two programs together would decrease our fossil fuel use in this community by 30%. 30%. It's a credit to them. Good clap. Also on the environmental front, Parks and Recreation has initiated a pilot program analyzing the use of organic pesticides for weed control. This effort is being undertaken with the free assistance of local and national organic pesticide specialists and was started by a local resident who brought the proposal to our attention. My hope is that we can indeed move to organic pesticide use without detracting from the use and look of our parks and recreation facilities. In my view, it's the right thing to do. In the fire department, emergency services area, you don't know what I'm going to say either, do you, Bob? Okay, you can leave. All right. In the fire department emergency services area, last year alone, department personnel responded to some 9,600 calls for service. You heard that right, ladies and gentlemen. 9,600 calls, which include fire response, advanced life support, and basic life support 911 rescue calls. To keep up with that volume, our fire department implemented a tiered advanced and basic life support system that more effectively dispatches equipment, thereby allowing basic services to be met while keeping advanced life support units available for more emergent calls using part-time employees. I would also like to recognize our fire department, as I tease you a little bit. I would also like to recognize you and your fire department for their heroic actions and community service commitment. On April 23, 2015, the quick actions of our firefighters saved the life of a 12-year-old boy trapped in a house fire. Captain Jim Quillisi, crew members Travis Boggs, John Pedrini, and other department personnel were recognized by the board for their heroic actions. I would also like to thank the fire department and its people for its outreach to the service to our community, particularly the St. Baldrick's Cancer Fundraiser and Operation Warm, a Coats for Kids operation. And in a tribute to multitasking, that's what I call it, a tribute to multitasking, while servicing all those calls for service, our fire department was able to secure a $200,000 grant from Homeland Security that enabled the purchase of an emergency generator for the MAC. Well done, you guys. From the law enforcement perspective, on the broader sense of public safety, Kenny, 2015 was a very good year. This past year firmly established a 3-year trend of effective community engagement and outreach that has resulted in crime rate levels falling to the lowest level since 1994. Make no mistake, we certainly acknowledge and will never forget the heartbreaking loss of Deputy Carl Howell in August. Yet this tragedy was not indicative of the rest of a very successful year. Domestic violence, however, remains a serious problem in our community. A caustic issue that degrades family and community alike, the sheriff asks that we join with him in the fight to end the scourge of domestic violence in our community. One of our more significant accomplishments in 2015 was the positioning of officers in our schools, seated by federal community-oriented policing funds. We hope to give our youth and school officials the safest environment to carry out educational opportunities and growth in our community. Another significant accomplishment was the creation and staffing of a sexual assault examination and forensic room. This facility was made possible through the efforts of our sexual assault response team, made up of a partnership among the Advocates to End Domestic Violence, the District Attorney's Office, and Carson Hospital. A hearty well done to Lisa Lee, Adriana Freilich, Supervisor Aboud, Kitty McKay, Nikki Aker, Dr. Pintar, and all the other members of the SART team. Victims of sexual assault will no longer be required to drive to another community or another 45 minutes for an examination. A humiliating experience, to say the least. And thank you to all our police officers and volunteers for their numerous public outreach events, such as Holiday with a Hero, National Night Out, DARE, and others. Events such as those not only add to our sense of community, but also let our young folks know that the police are not their enemy, but are rather there to help. And I know I'm going to probably get in trouble for saying this, but I would also like to congratulate Sheriff Ken Furlong for winning the 2015 DEA DARE Law Enforcement Executive Officer of the Year Award. This is a coveted award given to a senior law enforcement officer who epitomizes extraordinary commitment to drug prevention and enforcement. Couldn't go to a better guy, Sheriff. Yeah. I don't know when you sleep, and I don't know how you stay married, but you're out there all the time, man. Okay. On the development front, the Planning Commission has been in full swing. This past year saw 42 entitlements being issued under the Growth Management Ordinance, of which 28 were for single-family homes, 10 for single-family attached, 2 for mobile home lots, and 2 for a duplex. May not sound like, but when I first became mayor, those numbers were 0. A list of the status of some of those projects can be found on the city website. But let me mention a few of those and perhaps some others that are being discussed but have not yet been formalized. If you haven't been to the Boys and Girls Club lately, I encourage you to take some time to see the developments in that area. In addition to the MAC, which was built by the city, the club is in the middle of constructing an adjacent teen center that will complement the existing club activities by providing a facility for use by teenagers. And Fish is building a new housing facility for economically challenged, that's one way of putting it, in other words, homeless individuals, as well as changing the facade look of their existing building. And I talked to Supervisor Bagwell last night, who informed me that of the new facility that's being built with Nevada Rural Housing Development Funds, there'll be 39 units there for relatively permanent housing for homeless individuals. 6 of those units will be dedicated for homeless veterans. Congratulations to you. Good move. And as Fish board member and city supervisor Bagwell correctly states, the office downtown is the start of a facade development in our downtown area. And as probably you drive down Carson Street, you probably have seen that the building it's been under construction for some time, but I want everyone to remember that the facade is being built by volunteer labor, and labor is becoming in short supply these days. So my word is, bear with them. They're doing great work. Land clearing and off-site work is proceeding on the first phase development of the Schultz Ranch that will initially encompass 100 homes. A new 5,000 square foot medical office is being built by Carson Dermatology on Medical Parkway. 39 apartments are about to begin construction on Janelle Drive. 7 townhomes were recently approved for construction on East Robinson Street. We will soon see the completion of the United Federal Credit Union on East William Street. An assisted living facility on 1001 Mountain Street is in the works. There is talk of a first-class age-in-place senior development, and serious interest has been shown in parts of the Lampa Ranch off 5th Street. With the completion of the freeway scheduled to happen next year, Carson Street from Fairview South to the Spooner Junction will be transferred from state ownership to Carson City. This includes not only the 6 traffic lanes, but also the adjacent frontage roads and property. Complete street design concepts are being analyzed for this area. I want to let you know that, as with our downtown streetscape project, before any decisions are made, there will be significant public input, and I see Dana out there. Make sure that what we do on South Carson Street does the right thing by all those businesses out there. Finally, I have been told that there is another hotel being considered on North Carson Street. Before getting to some concluding thoughts, let me talk a little bit about city finances, which I'm thankful to say are improving. By way of some thumbnail statistics, our community's general fund obligation debt remains quite good, with a Standard & Poor's rating of AA- and A1 from Moody's. Our total debt service represents just 4.7% of our general fund expenditures. Over the past 5 years, the number of our general fund employees has decreased by 22. During that same period of time, our general fund revenues have increased by $12.7 million, or 24%, to $66.4 million, while our general fund expenditures have remained flat at around $61.6 million. At the height of the financial crisis, the board increased the property tax rate to the maximum permitted under state law to maintain adequate public services. In each of the past 3 years, the board has reduced that rate and made a commitment to continue to look for ways to reduce the property tax rate over time. As we work through the budget process, this year, let me assure you that I believe we will all have that commitment in mind. Our consolidated tax receipts for the city are currently coming in at about 10% over last year's numbers, which, if that holds, will result in approximately $1.8 million in additional revenue. In 2011, the Board of Supervisors adopted a fund balance policy which requires a minimum unrestricted fund balance of not less than 5% with a goal of 8.3%. State law requires an unrestricted general fund balance of 4%. Industry practices recommended an unrestricted general fund balance sufficient to cover a minimum of 2 months' operating expenses. So my personal opinion is that we should first use any excess revenue to build up our reserves to the board-adopted goal of 8.3%. But as I said, those determinations will be made through the budget process discussion, which I have to tell you is always a fun time of year. Last year, when revenues came in over budget, we distributed some $775,000 to capital and deferred maintenance projects, $370,000 to streets, and $100,000 to the newly created Restricted Extraordinary Maintenance Fund. As you can see, we have thankfully come a long way since the decline of 2008. With that, let me offer some concluding thoughts and observations. A moment ago, I mentioned development growth. Suffice it to say that we are once again seeing development take hold in our community. And that is a good thing in many ways, not the least of which is community sustainability. But it is also a good thing that our city had the wisdom some years ago to implement a growth management ordinance. We are fortunate in this community to generally know not only how much and the type of growth our community can reasonably sustain, but also have in place a process that promotes a leveling of growth with annual allotments. We are also fortunate to have designed our water and wastewater systems to accommodate our potential build-out. Not many communities have that luxury, not many. But growth projections, as I'm sure every one of you in this room know, growth projections are just that. Although this winter seems like it has been one wet day after another, I guess Friday's going to be another wet one, most folks now recognize that we're in a drought, the end of which is really rather impossible to predict. While we have every reason, I want to repeat that, while we have every reason to believe that we have sufficient water for our current and future requirements, we need to be extremely vigilant. Governor Sandoval has created a drought forum through the Division of Emergency Management. Where appropriate, we should take advantage of the information and recommendations developed by that forum in an effort to make reasonable development decisions should the projections of our water resources change as a result of extended drought conditions in western Nevada and our community. While we remain vigilant, however, it is also important that we recognize and indeed take advantage of the changing economics happening in northern Nevada. We are not losing our history by any means, but we are undergoing a significant economic diversification. As the capital of our state, we are the face of that state that deserves an infrastructure representative of that face. And I'm proud to say we are doing just that. We should continue to support our manufacturing community by ensuring that we have a workforce trained in the business needs of those operating here, as well as those looking to locate in northern Nevada. Providing that support means that we should wholeheartedly do what we can to facilitate the efforts of Western Nevada College to provide workforce education and training. Our library is, of course, doing some of that, but we need to look for additional ways to help, including letting our political leaders know the importance of Western Nevada College to our region's successful integration into the state's burgeoning economic diversification efforts. While we don't, and let me go on here to say that while we don't run the Carson City School District, our board works closely with the school board and its administration. We hold joint meetings on a quarterly basis to ensure consistency in our respective strategic goals. I believe, I know it's somewhat unusual for a state of the city for mayor to talk about education, but education is part of how we move in this community. Education is part of the sense of community. We don't go anywhere if we don't have education. And I want to talk about education here in a minute, and I want everybody to listen very carefully to this. I believe that Carson City's K-12 education efforts got tarred with too broad a brush when it was recently published that Nevada is 50th in the nation in education. Our school district is not 50th in the nation. Our school district did not receive the Race to the Top grant by being 50th. Indeed, as we have learned from our joint board meeting the other night, the education template used in our Race to the Top application is not only showing early signs of success in our own schools, but has been selected for export to school districts in other states. That's right, selected for export to other schools. Our high school has received no less than 90 academic state championships and has an 86% graduation rate. And with respect to workforce development, Carson High School is implementing a manufacturing curriculum under its CTE program consistent with its Race to the Top template. Perhaps even more impressive, however, is the fact that our school district here in Carson City is the only one in Nevada where every student in grades 3 through 12 is provided with an individual laptop. That's right, every student. To date, more than 5,600 devices have been distributed to our students. And let me say, our private schools are no less impressive. Ladies and gentlemen, those messages need to get outside of our community. I'd like to talk now about streets for a few moments. An independent study recently placed Carson City midway when compared to northern Nevada counties. That's not good enough for us, and I know it's not good enough for any of you out there either. The primary source of road construction and maintenance is the 9-cent a gallon gas tax in Carson City. The problem with that funding source is that vehicles are far more efficient than they used to be, and people are actually driving less. Matter of fact, I drove here in a Toyota Avalon hybrid, thanks to Dana Whaley out there, that I bought, but I bought from him. Although we have made significant general fund contributions to streets, that is neither a viable nor long-term solution. And let me say that as the chairman of our Regional Transportation Commission related at the last Board of Supervisors meeting, the issue really at its heart is a math problem. By the way, the chairman's sitting right there, Supervisor Bankowski. The issue at heart is really a math problem where declining revenues are insufficient to keep up with increasing demand, including the additional roadways being transferred to the city from the state as a result of the freeway construction and completion. It is a serious issue, and I urge you to carefully consider the enactment of an indexed gas tax similar to that enacted in Washoe County. In the meantime, if you see a situation that needs correcting, let the city know, either by phone or in person or indeed through Carson Connect. As the city manager often relates to me and to his staff, this is the 21st century where prompt customer service is not only expected, but it should be delivered. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Carsonites, as I mentioned during the christening ceremonies for the USNS Carson City, what we lack in geographic size, we more than make up in our unmatched community pride. Pride that we live in our state's capital. Pride in our mutual shared goal of providing an unmatched quality of life to all of our residents, regardless of age or ethnicity. Pride in our heritage and historical underpinnings. I know that each of my fellow board members here today shares this pride, and I thank each and every one of you for tirelessly working for the benefit of our community. We are indeed living up to the city motto, proud of its past, confident in its future. And thanks to each and every one of you, I am pleased to report that while caution remains the watchword, there are many, and I mean many, indicators that the state of our city is not only sound, but getting better by the day. God bless our city and the great state of Nevada, and thank you once again for providing me the honor of serving as the mayor of the greatest state in Nevada, and I call it the greatest state in the world. Thank you very much.